It was a Tuesday in January, the 14th day of the month, 2025. I found myself at the Lake Superior Blood Center on East Superior Street in Duluth, Minnesota, with a needle poised to draw my blood. $50 was the exchange for a pint of the vital fluid, a sum that represented the slim margin between working the next day or not. That was my reality, the depth of my financial straits. $50 was the sole occupant of my bank account, the entire measure of my worldly worth. Nolan Pierce, a man who had once managed 14 employees, a man whose name graced the door of his own commercial vehicle, a man who had laid the very foundations for structures that housed lives and dreams, was now reduced to this. I sat in a sterile plastic chair, a form resting on my lap, its questions about blood type and emergency contacts a stark contrast to the emptiness within me. I left the emergency contact field blank. There was no one to call. At 47 years old, my net value was precisely $50, the price for the liquid that sustained life, destined to be bagged, labeled, and distributed. Except, my donation wasn't destined for the usual path. The lab technician, Ingrid Halverson, a 38-year-old Norwegian-American woman with a precise articulation, paused her work, her eyes fixed on her screen. She then moved to a colleague, a silent conversation unfolding between them, their expressions mirroring a trained recognition of something profoundly unexpected. Ingrid returned, her practiced movements betraying a flicker of bewilderment. "Mr. Pierce," she began, her voice measured, "please remain seated. Is there a problem?" I inquired, my own apprehension mounting. "Not precisely a problem," she replied, "but I need to contact someone regarding your blood type." I confirmed my state to be positive. "No, sir," she corrected, her gaze holding a look I would later recognize on the faces of scientists encountering the impossible. "You are not be positive. You are something entirely different." A call was made. 22 minutes later, a stranger entered. Dr. Soren Lindquist, a 52-year-old hematologist affiliated with Essentia Health, tall, slender, and bespectacled, exuded an aura of meticulous scientific inquiry. He sat beside me, the needle still in my arm, the bag slowly filling. Dr. Lindquist, a specialist in rare blood types for 2 decades, examined Ingrid's printout and uttered a word I had never encountered. Rh-null. "What does that signify?" I asked. "It means," he explained, "that your blood lacks all Rh antigens, all 61 of them. Your red blood cells are devoid of every Rh protein typically present." "Is that detrimental?" he elaborated. "Not detrimental. Extraordinary." He gently placed the printout on his lap. "Mr. Pierce, there are fewer than 50 individuals on the planet with your blood type. It's designated Rh-null, though the medical community refers to it by another name." "And that would be?" I prompted. "Golden blood." The weight of his words settled upon me. I looked at Ingrid, at the needle, at the fluid draining from my body, the same blood that had coursed through me for 47 years without a second thought, the blood that had fueled my endeavors in concrete, trucking, and business ownership, only to witness its collapse, the loss of my wife, my life, culminating in this moment, selling the essence of my being for $50. "Are you suggesting my blood is rare?" I ventured. "I am stating," he clarified, "that your blood is one of the most exceptionally scarce biological substances on Earth. Rh-null blood is universally compatible, capable of transfusing into any individual with rare Rh blood types, surpassing even the versatility of O-negative. For those with specific rare Rh conditions, your blood is the sole option for survival." He paused. "There are fewer than 50 confirmed cases globally. You may be the 43rd or 44th. We will need to verify this with the International Rare Blood Registry." He leaned closer. "Mr. Pierce, Are you aware that you carry within your veins something that pharmaceutical companies would expend millions to replicate and cannot? A wry smile touched my lips. A man labeled a broke loser by his wife, residing in a basement apartment in Superior, Wisconsin, selling his blood for gas money, was now being informed that his very blood was a priceless commodity. The universe, it seemed, possessed a peculiar sense of humor. But the amusement was fleeting, for what transpired next rendered the $50 utterly insignificant. Before I recount the call from Monaco, before I reveal the figure that made my knees tremble, before I disclose the DNA results that irrevocably alter my life trajectory, I must first explain how I arrived at that plastic chair. Because golden blood held little meaning without understanding the crushing despair of believing one possessed nothing. Pierce Concrete and Excavation, a venture I had built from a single truck and a cement mixer, was no more. It wasn't ailing, it was defunct. I liquidated the trucks and equipment, settled what debts I could, filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and watched 18 years of my life disintegrate at an auction in Hermantown. Standing in the parking lot, I struggled to recall how to simply breathe. Vanessa departed 3 weeks later. Not gradually, not with heartfelt discussions or attempts at reconciliation. She left like one flees a burning building, swiftly, decisively, without a backward glance. "You're a broke loser, Nolan," she declared in the kitchen of the home we'd shared for 12 years, a home to which I'd personally added an extension. It was the house where our children, Connor and Leah, had taken their first steps, unwrapped Christmas presents, and evolved from infants into individuals. She uttered these words while packing a suitcase, the culmination of sentiments long harbored, finally granted permission for utterance. "I poured everything into that company, Vanessa," I protested. "And now you have nothing," she retorted. "And I'm not going to stand here with nothing alongside you." She secured primary, uncontested custody of Connor and Leah. My living situation, a basement apartment in Superior, Wisconsin, costing $475 a month and perpetually smelling of laundromat detergent, rendered me incapable of contesting her claim. A man inhabiting a laundry-scented basement apartment was no match for a woman with stable employment and a 3-bedroom house. I gained visitation rights every other weekend, contingent on my ability to afford gas, Vanessa's availability, and favorable weather conditions that didn't transform the roads between Superior and Duluth into treacherous ice rinks. In practice, this meant seeing my children approximately once a month. Each encounter served as a poignant reminder of my former self and the stark contrast to my present reality. Connor, 16, possessed the simmering anger of adolescence, yet lacked the maturity to channel it. He regarded me with the disillusioned gaze of a teenager witnessing a father's faltering, not with animosity, but with the profound disappointment of a young man realizing his father was merely human, fallible, and potentially incapable of providing the foundational support he had once assumed. Leah, 13, greeted me with an embrace each time we met and departed in tears. Both reactions inflicted a particular kind of pain, leading me to question if these visits were fostering healing or exacerbating our fractures. "Dad, are you okay?" she once asked, observing the water stain on the ceiling, the mattress on the floor, and the hot plate on the counter of my basement dwelling. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I assured her. "You don't look fine," she countered. "I'm working on it." "Working on what?" "On getting back up." Her mother's eyes, coupled with her grandfather's unwavering resolve, met mine. "I know you will, Dad," she stated with conviction. "You always get back up." I clung to that affirmation. Through the transient employment, the bitter coffee, the pre-dawn alarms, and the arduous drives to warehouse jobs demanding the labor of lifting boxes heavier than my future, I held onto my daughter's faith. It was akin to a drowning man grasping a rope, not out of sheer strength, but because the alternative meant succumbing to the current. January 14th, 2025. The blood center, the needle, the $50. Then, the transformation on Ingrid Halverson's face, Dr. Lindquist's arrival, and the utterance of a word that belonged in a science fiction novel, Golden Blood. Dr. Lindquist remained for 2 hours, meticulously detailing the implications of Rh-null blood, the 61 absent antigens, the global scarcity of fewer than 50 known cases, and the vital role of the international registry. Your blood, he emphasized, possesses the unique capability to save lives that no other blood can. Individuals with rare Rh conditions, and their numbers are more substantial than one might initially believe, scattered across the globe, can only receive transfusions from Rh-null donors. Without donors like you, they perish. It is that straightforward. So, what is the course of action now? I inquired. We will register you with the International Society of Blood Transfusion, he explained. Your sample will be meticulously cataloged and made accessible to the global rare blood network. And he paused, his phone buzzing insistently for the past 10 minutes. It appears someone has already located you. The call originated from Dr. Mathilde Arnaud, personal physician to Lucien Devereaux, a 72-year-old financier residing in Monaco. His name was entirely unfamiliar to me, yet his net worth, valued at $4.2 billion, signified that when he required something, the world collectively bent to his will. However, the world's resources, however vast, could not provide what Lucien Devereaux desperately needed. Not money, not technology, not even the pinnacle of global medical care. What he required resided within my veins, and no substitute existed. The following day, in his office at Essentia Health, Dr. Lindquist elaborated. Mr. Devereaux suffers from a chronic hemolytic condition. His body prematurely destroys its red blood cells. He requires frequent transfusions of Rh-compatible blood. His own blood type is exceedingly rare, and the only fully compatible donor type is Rh-null. His medical team maintains a comprehensive registry of all known Rh-null donors worldwide. Your sample was flagged within hours of its processing. How did they locate me so swiftly? I questioned. The International Rare Blood Registry operates in real time, Dr. Lindquist explained. Upon the identification of a new Rh-null donor, immediate alerts are disseminated to medical facilities with patients on waiting lists. Mr. Devereaux has been on that list for 3 years. What is their proposal? Dr. Lindquist placed a document on his desk. Mr. Devereaux's family is extending an exclusive donor agreement. This entails regular donations, adhering to the standard safe interval of every 8 weeks for a duration of 5 years. In return, they're offering $1.2 million to be deposited up front into a trust. This equates to $240,000 annually. Furthermore, all your medical expenses will be covered for life, and travel expenses for any donations at specialized facilities will be fully reimbursed. $1.2 million. I sat in that office, and the sum had an unprecedented effect. It refused to compute, to settle. It hovered in the space between Dr. Lindquist and me like an unattainable balloon. $1.2 million. For my blood. For your blood, Dr. Lindquist affirmed, which from a medical standpoint is irreplaceable. I came to the blood center yesterday seeking $50, I stated. For gas money, he acknowledged. And now someone is offering me $1.2 million for the same blood. The intrinsic value of something does not fluctuate based on one's knowledge of it, Mr. Pierce, Dr. Lindquist wisely noted. Your blood held the same worth yesterday as it does today. You simply lacked awareness of it. I contemplated his words, reflecting as my father used to, slowly, meticulously examining every facet before reaching a decision. Your blood was worth the same yesterday as it is today. The very blood that had coursed through me as I poured concrete, as my company crumbled, as my wife labeled me a broke loser, as I slept on a mattress in a basement apartment. The same blood, the same inherent value. The crucial difference was that someone had finally appraised it. There is one additional matter, Dr. Lindquist disclosed. Beyond the $1.2 million, something distinct from that sum. When we confirmed your Rh-null classification, we conducted a comprehensive genetic panel. This is standard procedure for individuals with rare blood types, essential for understanding the genetic basis of the Rh-null expression and ensuring the accuracy of the classification. The genetic panel revealed an unexpected finding. He opened another file. Your DNA exhibits markers associated with a specific population group, Finnish Sami heritage. Finnish what? I asked. Sami, he repeated. The Sami are an indigenous people inhabiting the northern regions of Scandinavia and Finland. They have resided in Arctic territories for millennia, traditionally as reindeer herders, fishermen, and artisans. Their distinct genetic profile, shaped by centuries of relative isolation, includes unique distributions of certain rare blood types. And my blood carries their markers? Your blood carries their genetic signature, he confirmed. This signifies, Mr. Pierce, that your biological ancestry is Sami. I stared at him, processing the information. I'm adopted, I explained. I've known this since I was 12. My adoptive mother, Irene, informed me I was adopted through a private agency in 1977. She mentioned my biological mother was a young woman from Finland. That was all the information she possessed. That aligns precisely with our genetic findings, Dr. Lindquist stated. He leaned forward. With your explicit consent, as part of the rare blood documentation process, we cross-referenced your genetic profile with international genealogy databases. We have identified a match. A match. A potential biological relative, he confirmed. A gentleman named Einar Korhonen, 74 years of age, residing in Inari, Finland. Based on the genetic markers, he is most likely your biological mother's brother, your uncle. The room fell into a profound silence, punctuated only by the faint hum of medical equipment and the distant sounds of the hospital corridor. Within my chest, a sensation I hadn't experienced in years stirred. Not quite hope, but its precursor, a subtle shift in my internal landscape, the beginning of a burden lifting. My biological mother had a brother? I inquired. Indeed, he replied, and according to the genealogy database, he has been actively searching for a relative with a genetic profile matching yours for several years. He registered his own DNA with the express intention of finding you. He's been looking for me. It appears so. I sat in Dr. Lindquist's office, 47 years old, financially destitute, inhabiting a basement apartment, carrying blood worth $1.2 million and DNA that connected me to a family I never knew existed on the other side of the globe. For the first time, I grasped at the very thing I had been seeking my entire life, a sense of belonging, of rootedness, of understanding my origins, the thing that the loss of my company, my wife, and my home had stripped away had been within me all along. Literally, in my blood, my cells, the genetic code that linked me to Arctic reindeer herders who had been searching for me while I was searching for myself. That evening, I dialed the number Dr. Lindquist had provided. Seated in my basement apartment in Superior, my gaze fixed on the water stain on the ceiling, I dialed a Finnish phone number. It rang 4 times. International ringtones possess a distinct quality, extended and patient, as if the telephone itself acknowledges the oceanic journey of the call. "Hello," a man's voice responded. It was weathered, aged, the kind of voice that suggested a lifetime shaped by wind, cold, and decades of speaking softly in expansive, open spaces. "Mr. Corhonen," I began, "my name is Nolan Pierce. I am calling from Minnesota in the United States. A doctor informed me that we might be related." A prolonged silence ensued, stretching across 4,000 miles and 47 years. Then, in accented English, imbued with the distinct resonance of Finland in every consonant, he replied, "I have waited a very long time for this telephone call. You've been searching for me? Since my sister confided in me before her passing in 2019, he explained. She spoke of you, the child she relinquished in America, the baby she gave away because she was 19, alone, and fearful. She implored me to find you. She said," his voice faltered, the sound of an elderly man weeping distinct from any other. It was quiet, restrained, the lament of a generation taught fortitude, remaining steadfast even in its breaking. She said, "Tell him I never stopped thinking about him. Tell him his blood is Sammy blood. Tell him he belongs to us." I pressed the phone to my forehead, closed my eyes, and wept. Not for the money, not for the blood, not for its rarity or the scientific marvel, nor for the billionaire in Monaco. I wept because a woman I had never met had carried me within her for 9 months, relinquished me, and spent the subsequent 42 years contemplating me, ultimately asking her brother to find me. And now, that brother was on the phone at what I calculated to be 2 in the morning finish time, crying because the child his sister had given away had finally called home. "Tell me about her," I requested. "Her name was Ayla," he began. "She was my younger sister, born in 1957 in Inari, in the north, within the Sami homeland. She possessed an insatiable curiosity and a desire to explore the world. In 1976, she traveled to America, to the university in Duluth, as part of a cultural exchange. She was 19, and she met someone, an American man. She never disclosed his name, stating it was inconsequential as he wished no involvement. She became pregnant, alone in a foreign country, without financial resources or nearby family. She sought an adoption agency and placed you, the baby, with a family in Duluth, the Pierces, George and Irene. Were they good to you? They were the finest parents anyone could wish for. Then Ayla made the correct decision," he continued. "She always believed she did, but she never ceased to wonder, never stopped observing your birthday on the calendar, never stopped envisioning your appearance, your pursuits, the person you became. I pour concrete. I offered or I used to. I built a company and lost it. You construct things with your hands?" he inquired. "Yes." "Then you are Sammy," he declared, a smile evident in his voice, discernible even through his tears. "We are a people who build with our hands, shelters, boats, tools, lives. Your hands possess knowledge, Nolan. They understand that which originates from here, from the north, from within the blood. Your hands know things. George on the lift bridge, a wrench gripped firmly. The world requires individuals who build. And now Einar, 4,000 miles away. Your hands know things that come from here. 2 men, strangers to each other, one who had raised me, the other sharing my blood, echoing the same sentiment in different languages from opposite ends of the earth. Einar, yes, I want to come to Finland. I want to see where my mother originated. I want to see Inari. I want to meet you. I am 74 years old, Nolan. I have awaited this call for 6 years since Ayla's passing. I will wait as long as you require, but please do not delay excessively. The winters here are long, and I am not growing any younger. I will not wait long. I promise. Good. And Nolan, yes. Welcome home. I finalized the donor agreement with Lucien Devereaux's medical team in February of 2025. The sum of $1.2 million was deposited into a trust managed by a financial advisor recommended by Dr. Lindquist, a woman in Duluth specializing in sudden wealth management, apparently a legitimate field for a genuine phenomenon that affects real people. Though, I surmise, most of her clientele did not discover their fortunes while seated in a blood donation chair. I did not cease working. That was the initial decision I made with the newfound wealth. It wasn't about the money, though $240,000 annually would have been more than ample for my needs. It was George Pierce's voice echoing in my mind each morning, picturing him on a lift bridge, wrench in hand, a man who believed the world needed builders. I accepted a position as a concrete foreman with Northland Contractors, a well-regarded firm based in Duluth. The work remained familiar, assessing soil conditions, preparing construction sites, and pouring foundations. Yet, the burden of ownership, the weight of liability, and the gnawing dread of 3 a.m. worries about payroll, suppliers, and clients who might default were gone. It was simply the task at hand, the tools, and the concrete. I relocated from my basement dwelling in Superior to a 2-bedroom apartment in Duluth. This placed me much closer to Connor and Leah, reducing their commute from 30 minutes to a mere 10. Before they saw their new rooms, I painted them myself. Connor's room I adorned in a deep blue he'd once mentioned wanting, while Leah's was a serene sage green, a shade she'd seen in a magazine. Upon their first visit, Leah stood in her freshly painted room and exclaimed, "Dad, you remembered the green." Of course I had. Mom said you'd probably forget, she added. Your mother doesn't know everything about me, I replied. Vanessa eventually learned about the financial windfall. Not from me, but from Connor. He'd happened to overhear a conversation with my financial advisor. And at 16, with a remarkable inability to keep significant information to himself, he shared it with his mother that evening. She contacted me the following day. Nolan, she began, is it true about the blood thing? It's true, I confirmed. And they're paying you over $1 million? $1.2 million over 5 years. A distinct silence followed, the kind that descends when a woman recalculates the worth of a man she'd previously dismissed as insignificant. I was thinking perhaps we should discuss us, maybe give it another go. Vanessa, I responded, you call me a broke loser. You took my children. You left me in a basement apartment that smelled perpetually of laundry detergent. And now, after hearing a figure with 6 zeros, you wish to reconsider? That is not how this works. You made a mistake, Nolan. Yes, you did. But the mistake wasn't leaving me. The mistake was believing my value was tied to my bank account. And I will not permit you to make that error again. Nolan, goodbye, Vanessa. I'll see the children this weekend. I ended the call, not with anger, nor with triumph, but with a profound sense of calm, the quiet assurance of a man who finally understood that the person who had deemed him worthless was the one who had failed to see his true worth. My first donation for Lucien Devereaux occurred in March of 2025 at a specialized hematology center in New York City. I traveled there by plane, my first flight since a vacation to Cancun in 2016, a trip Vanessa had complained about for 3 days because the hotel lacked a swim-up bar. The donation itself was routine, mirroring the process at the blood center in Duluth. The same needle, the same bag, the same quiet act of offering a part of oneself to sustain another's life. Lucien and I never met. His medical team managed all arrangements. However, a week after the donation, a handwritten letter arrived at my Duluth apartment. The paper was cream-colored and of substantial weight. The message composed in meticulous English with a European formality that lent each sentence a sense of careful craftsmanship, as if written with a fountain pen. Dear Mr. Pierce, it began, I am writing to express a gratitude that mere language is insufficient to convey. You possess something within your blood that cannot be manufactured by wealth nor replicated by science. It is quite literally life itself. My physicians inform me that your donation has stabilized my condition in ways that 3 years of experimental treatments could not achieve. You have granted me time with my grandchildren, time in my garden, time to witness the Mediterranean at sunset, a privilege I now cherish immeasurably. I understand you discovered your remarkable gift while selling blood for $50. Please know that the intrinsic value of what you carry is entirely independent of any monetary compensation. It is priceless. You're priceless. With deepest respect, Lucien Devereaux. I read the letter on my kitchen table. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in my wallet alongside a photograph of Connor and Leah that I have carried since the day I left our home. Pike Magnuson visited the evening I returned from New York. Pike, 49 years old, was a former employee who now worked alongside me at Northland. He arrived with a six-pack of Summit EPA and a bag of gas station jerky, which in Pike's limited lexicon of celebration constituted a formal acknowledgement. So, you're a medical celebrity now, he quipped. I'm a concrete foreman who donates blood. A concrete foreman who donates million-dollar blood. It's the same blood I had when I was pouring foundations for you and cursing frozen rebar. I countered. Yeah, but now it's worth something. It was always worth something, Pike. I just hadn't realized it. He regarded me, chewed thoughtfully on a piece of jerky, and took a long drink of his beer. You know what George would say? What? He'd say the world doesn't need more people who understand their own worth. It needs people who build things regardless. That'd sound like George. A smart man, raised a good kid. He clinked his bottle against mine. Golden blood, he mused. That's the most outlandish thing I've ever heard. And I've heard you attempt karaoke. I'm currently making arrangements for a trip to Finland scheduled for June of 2025. Einar awaits me there. He has sent me photographs of the landscape surrounding Inari, vast, green, and possessing an emptiness that resonates with Minnesota's own character, as Minnesota is perhaps the closest America comes to Scandinavia without an ocean crossing. The images depict lakes, forests, and a sky so expansive it evokes a comforting sense of insignificance. He also sent a photograph of Ayla, my biological mother. She is pictured in front of a traditional Sami lavu, a tent-like dwelling, wearing a gakti, the customary Sami attire, in shades of blue and red accented with silver trim. In the photograph, she appears young, around 20 years old, roughly the age she was when she arrived in Duluth, fell in love, and had a child she could not keep. She shares my forehead, or perhaps I share hers, that same broad, flat plane above the eyebrows that George used to jest made me look perpetually preoccupied with structural matters. In the photo, however, she is not contemplating anything structural. She is smiling, bathed in the Arctic light, her hand resting gently on a reindeer's back. She looks like a woman deeply connected to a place and a people, possessing a certainty I have never felt elsewhere until this moment. Perhaps I won't truly know until I arrive, but the blood coursing through my veins tells me I belong to that place, to those people, to that woman in the photograph who gave me away but never ceased hoping for my return. Connor and Leah will be accompanying me. This was my decision, independent of the money, the blood, or the billionaire in Monaco. The choice to take my children to Finland, to Inari, to the Sami homeland, to meet their great-uncle and experience the origins of their father's bloodline. This is the most meaningful act I can undertake with all of this. Not to spend it, not to hoard it, but to share it. Connor asked, Dad, isn't Finland cold? In June, I replied, not particularly. They have something called the midnight sun. It doesn't get dark at all for weeks on end. That's strange, he mused. That's where we come from, buddy. He pondered this. At 16, he was processing the notion that his father, the concrete foreman from Duluth, was connected to indigenous reindeer herders in the Arctic. That's actually kind of cool, he finally said. Yeah, it is, I agreed. Leah's response was more direct. Dad, do I have golden blood too? I don't know, sweetheart. We'd have to get you tested. I want to get tested, she declared. We can do that. And if I have it, I want to donate like you. At 13, she possesses a bravery that I, at 47, have only recently begun to cultivate. She has her grandfather's hands, her father's blood, and a heart that surpasses both. I am at the blood center now. The same building, the same chair, the same needle. Ingrid Halverson is drawing my blood. Her hands are as efficient as ever, the routine as practiced. But everything else has changed. I'm not here for $50. I am here because I committed to 6 donations a year, and a man in Monaco is alive because I honor that commitment. And perhaps other individuals with rare Rh conditions will survive because my blood is now part of the registry. And maybe, just maybe, the very thing I once considered ordinary is actually what makes me extraordinary. Same time next month, Mr. Pierce? Ingrid asks, withdrawing the needle and applying a cotton swab and tape. Same time, I confirm. I step out into the Duluth chill. Lake Superior lies before me, a steely gray expanse, vast and ancient. The lift bridge is visible against the sky. My father's bridge, the one George maintained for 28 years with a wrench and a resilience that the elements could never overcome. The wind buffets me. Duluth is not a place for the faint of heart. It is for those built for the cold, those who carry something within their blood that keeps them standing when the temperature plummets, the world turns white, and everything non-essential is stripped away. My wife once called me a broke loser. She was mistaken about the loser part. She was right about the broke part, but being broke is a temporary state. What flows in my blood is permanent. My heritage is permanent. The capability within my hands to build, to pour, to shape, to transform liquid into something solid, that too is permanent. I entered this blood center offering the only thing I had left for $50. I am leaving now, carrying something I've possessed my entire life but never recognized. Golden blood, Sami heritage, a biological uncle in Finland who calls me nephew, and the profound understanding that my uniqueness was never listed on my resume or reflected in my bank account. It has always resided within me. George Pierce, the man who raised me, often said the world needs people who build things. Einar Korhonen, the uncle I have yet to meet, describes the Sami as a people who build with their hands. And Ayla Korhonen, the mother I never knew, gave me away at 19 because she had no other choice. For 42 years, she hoped that whatever she imparted during those 9 months, her blood, her genes, her strength, would be sufficient to carry me through whatever life presented. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was golden. Was Vanessa wrong to call her husband a broke loser and abandon him when he needed her most? Or was Nolan's golden blood the proof that his worth was never measured in dollars? Tell me what you think in the comments below. If this story made you think, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We post new family dramas every week, and you won't want to miss what happens next.